Recording in progress.
Om Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibhiriritam Kalmashapaham Sravanamangalam Srimadaatatam Bhuvi Grananti Bhurida Jana. The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna with the devotees at Dakshineshwar. Sri Ramakrishna's conversation continues. Master, it is not lust alone that one should be afraid of in the life of the world. There is also anger. Anger arises when obstacles are placed in the way of desire. So Sri Ramakrishna here is referring to the 6 passions, Shararipu, as has been spoken of in our scriptures. Shararipu actually means 6 enemies. So these passions are like enemies, they destroy us. So what are these 6 passions? The Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Kama means the desire. So all the desires in life, that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. Even lust is also an intense form of desire. So all the desires, including lust, when they are obstructed, when I am having a tremendous desire to attain something and there is some obstruction on it, that results in rage, anger. So all our anger comes from the obstruction on the way to attain the objects of desire. And if I have a free access to all the objects of desire, then the lobha, the greed develops to have more and more. So it gets converted into obsession. And that obsession leads to moha, delusion, that we forget that what's the necessity and what is something which is, in one word, the need and the want. As sometimes we say that the needs are seeds and wants are weeds. So Lobha speaks of more and more wants. So they are like the weeds, they destroy us. Just like anything, as Gautam Buddha used to say, that Madhya Pantha, the middle way, the too much attachment, the too much procuring of the objects of desires, that is harmful for us. And at the same time, just simply relinquishing everything, even forgetting the sustenance, our own substance, that also is something which destroys us. And both are obsession. You will find that something that which leads to obsession is not that speaks of greed. Even abstination can also lead to a type of obsession. So this anorexia, that you will find that some of the people, to maintain their figure, to maintain just good physique, will be avoiding food, and that becomes an obsession. So even at the cost of their health, they will develop an obsession for not having food. So that's why I'm saying this, both are obsession, and that's called anorexia. It leads even to death. Sometimes you'll find that it will lead to emaciation. They become extremely lean and thin. They become almost skin and bones, and it at last can even lead to the death. It can be fatal. So obsession speaks of what? That whatever we are obsessed with, whether it is too much indulgence or avoidance, that leads to moha, delusion. We forget the necessity, we get obsessed. And that because of our lobha, greed, when we start procuring all the things beyond our necessity, that speaks of mother. That we start bragging, just see how much wealth I have, how much power I have, how much influence I have. These all speaks of mother. And if I see someone who is more influential than me, more powerful than me, more wealthy than me, that results in envy, the matsarya. So we thus find that the kama, the desire alone, is the root cause of all the other 5 passions or the enemies. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. That lust alone, that one should be afraid of in the life. It is not the lust alone that one should be afraid. The lust is succeeded by the other 5 ripus. And all the Shara ripus are the cause of our this disintegration in life. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. M. At mealtime, sometimes a cat stretches out its paw to take the fish from my plate, but I cannot show any resentment. So here, the author of the Gospel, M. Mahendranath Gupta, he thought that most probably Sri Ramakrishna will appreciate that it is an expression of compassion. But here we find the master, what he's saying, why? You may even beat it once in a while. What's the harm? A worldly man should hiss, but he shouldn't pour out his venom. He mustn't actually injure others, but he should make a show of anger to protect himself from enemies. Otherwise they will injure him. But a sannyasi need not even hiss. So here, just for your pet, that you may feel that it is a type of compassion, but it's unhygienic. Just the pet coming and taking the food from your plate is not a matter of hygiene. Of course, you have to look after the pet. You have to give some food, but there should be a demarcation that yes, this is your food, this is your plate. When it is given here, you can eat it, but you cannot simply come and take the food from others' plate. So that speaks of a type of weakness. It's not compassion. It's a type of weakness, and that's why sometimes we find that we try to hide our weakness in the name of our, that compassion, non-injury, non-harming others. So that's why Swami Vivekananda in Karma Yoga very nicely has indicated that non-resistance is of course the highest ideal. But it is the highest ideal only for the one who has evolved to practice it. If within us, the fear is the factor, obsession is the factor, or some weakness, weakness in the form of infatuation is the factor, then practicing this non-resistance is actually trying to mask our negativities. It's not the real practice of non-resistance. And for that, Sri Ramakrishna, that is speaking of a parable which he has related in details in some other context. That what is that? That a snake unnecessarily used to bite others. It was staying under a tree in a hole, and even if the children of the village used to come to play, it will go and without any reason attack. So no one is to go near the tree. So one day Brahmachari was passing that way, and all the children warned him, don't go that way. There is a very venomous cobra, and it will attack you unprovoked. The Brahmachari told, you need not bother. I know some mantra, and with that I can subside it. I can make it very, this placid. So I can make it very meek. So okay, and then the Brahmachari proceeded, and as it was said, the snake really came to attack him, and this Brahmachari had the power to subdue it. It became very calm. And then the Brahmachari just instructed him that why, without any reason, you are violent toward others. You know that non-resistance is the highest ideal. I will give you a mantra. Every day you meditate on it, and this will lead you to the highest perfection. So this japa, this repetition of the mantra, that's the one practice you do, and don't harm others. Now the influence of the brahmachari was so marked on this snake that he started following his instructions. Just literally, word to word, he was following his instructions. And in no time, the children of the village found out that the snake is not attacking, no more attacking. So just to find out whether, if previously it used to attack unprovoked, now whether it attacks if it is provoked. So they started pelting stones on it, on the snake. Still it in no way reacted. And now the children, they just now dared to come near the snake. They found still this not attacking. And then they got hold of his tail and whirled it round and threw it. It was badly hurt. It was already injured by all those pelting of the stones, and now they whirled it and threw it. So it was very, very badly injured. And it was lying unconscious. And all these children thought that the snake has died. So they left. But the snake regained its consciousness and somehow managed to go inside the hole where it stayed. And these villagers never saw it. They thought it has died. But this snake, and the brahmachari that he has given that mantra, he was still practicing. And throughout the day he never used to come out. Only at night he will come out, and as he was asked to practice non-violence, it will sustain itself only on dried leaves and fruits. The leaves which has fallen, the fruits which has fallen, it will thrive on that. And then again it will go back to its hole. And one day, after many years, the brahmachari came back to that village. And the brahmachari inquired to all the villagers, well, there was a snake there. Do you know where it is? Because the brahmachari couldn't, the moment he went to the vicinity, couldn't see it. The villagers told, oh, it has died. It's no more there. But the brahmachari knew that unless that mantra which he has given, this snake evolves spiritually by meditating on that mantra, there is no death for it. It has to be perfected, and then only it will leave its body. So he knew very well that it's a very powerful mantra I have given. He is not going to die unless he gets perfected in that mantra. So now he went near the tree and started calling the name of the snake, and the snake somehow managed to come out. Hearing his guru's voice, he came out. And a guru, this brahmachari, seeing this snake he has become such a weakling. Seeing this emaciated snake, the brahmachari asked that how you became so emaciated. Now the snake has become so non-violent, it even forgot that it was actually bitten by the children. It said that as I am thriving only on these dried leaves and fruits, that's why most probably I got emaciated. The brahmachari says, no, try to remember, there must be some other reason. Otherwise, none can be emaciated the way you have become so emaciated. It's not possible. And then the brahmachari remembered. Oh yes, he told, after all, these children, they are innocent, they don't know that I am not going to attack them anymore. So they came, and to get rid of me, they just pelted stone on me, and they abused me in a very bad way. And that's why I got very badly injured, and that's also is one of the cause of my this deterioration in my physical condition. Now, this brahmachari, instead of praising, rebuked the snake. He told, I have asked you to be non-violent. I have asked you not to harm others. But have I asked you not to hiss? That you shouldn't beat others and pour venom. But you can hiss. To protect yourself, you can hiss. So that's the story, that as a householder, as a worldly man should hiss, but he shouldn't pour out his venom. As long as we have the sense of this idea, of this ego, that I am this body-mind complex, I have to take care of it. only through spiritual practice, when I go beyond this idea of the ego, that I am one with the absolute reality, then this idea of this limited personality has fallen off. For such a person of realization, that practicing non-resistance is something which is applicable. Otherwise, this practicing non-resistance, that's what you say, that going to the extent that not trying to even save oneself, is something which doesn't lead to any spiritual evolution. Why? Because it is with this body I have to evolve to attain to that highest realization. And now, before that, because I am not hissing, I haven't evolved, and I don't try to even protect myself, then it may result in immature ending of the life. And it will result into the waste of time. Again I have to be born to start my practice, to go to that evolution. So till the spiritual illumination happens in our life, till we get illumination, to protect ourselves, to a certain extent resistance is needed. And that resistance should be in such a way that it is just to protect me, not to harm others. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that very nice, that that a type of Ayurvedic medicine, it is called Makaradhwaj, it is formed by the crystallization of so many liquids. So how to crystallize it? They will pour all the liquids in a bottle and keep it aside for some time. And in a few months, there's all those liquids, they solidify, they crystallize, they all interact with each other, crystallize, and that crystal is something like an elixir. Now, but how to get that elixir? Because you have all poured everything in the bottle. So now, the only way to get that elixir is to break the bottle. And then Sri Ramakrishna says very interestingly that once that crystallization has happened, the Makaradhwaja has formed. What's the use of that bottle? Now you can break it. Similarly, till the highest evolution in spiritual life, which speaks of the dissolution of the ego, there is a need for this personality. We have to keep it in good condition, in healthy condition, so that it can help me to lead to that highest spiritual realization. Once I go there, then this idea of individuality has fallen off. I know nothing can. It is a realization that there is nothing which can harm the real me, which can never harm the real me. I am the eternal, conscious principle. Once you get that realization, you have got identified with your real nature. Now this body has no meaning for you. It's just a flow you're witnessing. Whether it stays or goes, it doesn't matter. For such a person, practicing non-resistance is of course an ideal. But for others, that you have to sustain your body, and for that, if necessary, you have to hiss, but never harm others. So there shouldn't be any sense of envy. There is a need for me to protect this body till I go to the spiritual realization, and that's why I have to hiss. So this is the idea which we find Sri Ramakrishna is saying. Then we find that anything is harming us, even a innocent act like a pet coming and trying to grab the food from the plate in which I am having food. It's not a very hygienic practice. For that I have to hiss, I have to show some sort of anger. It's not the real anger. We have to make a show of that anger, and that's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. So non-resistance can be practiced only by the one who has went to that realization. So a devotee, I find it extremely difficult for a householder to realize God. How few people can lead the life you prescribe for them. I haven't found any. Master, why should that be so? I have heard of a deputy magistrate named Pratap Singh. He is a great man. He has many virtues, compassion and devotion to God. He meditates on God. Once he sent for me. Certainly there are people like him. The practice of discipline is absolutely necessary. Why shouldn't a man succeed if he practices sadhana. But he doesn't have to work hard if he has real faith. Faith in his Guru's words. So this is something very significant thing Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. That if we have real faith, then all the thing materializes in a very short time. We did not have to practice intensely. Why? Because the faith creates an intense yearning. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that why that yearning is being created by faith. Suppose that Sri Ramakrishna gives a very nice example. Suppose I am sitting in a room, a thief is sitting in a room, and just in one of the walls there is a door which is locked, and someone comes and whispers in his ears. This locked door you see, behind that there are all bricks of golds. Now if this thief has faith in the words of this man, what will happen? This thief will become restless. That how I can just get a chance somehow to break the lock and get all those treasures which are there behind the locked door, isn't it? So unless he has faith, if he thinks that most probably he is just simply fooling me, then there is no question of attempting to break the lock. There is no restlessness, there is no yearning. It's only when he has the faith, then only he will go and break the lock and try to get the treasure. Sri Ramakrishna says that what the Guru has said, that our real nature is spiritual. It is Ananda Swarupa. That we in this life, the only thing which is common for all of us, whatever we may be endeavoring, some may want to be a doctor, some may want to be an engineer, some a businessman, some a teacher. There are so many professions. But is there any one of them who doesn't want happiness? So happiness is something which is the common goal for all. And the scripture says your real nature is nothing but bliss. As I am not aware of my real nature is as if locked up because of the ego, because of the ignorance. I cannot access that happiness. That happiness is the source of all the happiness. That is the eternal source of happiness. If we really have that faith in this word, we read the scriptures, we hear this from our Guru. If we really had the faith in these words, could you think we could have really lived the life the way we are leading? Quiet, complacent, not trying to find out the treasure which is hidden within us. Just like that thief, the moment he had faith in the words, it immediately created a tremendous unrest within him. He was yearning how to get that. So if we have faith, that will result in intense yearning. That such a treasure is just there within me. It is locked in the cavity of my heart. I have to realize it. It is that faith will result in tremendous yearning, and intense yearning is the factor which speaks of realization. If we have how intensely we are yearning, on that depends the pace of our evolution. How quickly we evolve in spiritual life, that depends on the intensity of our yearning. As has been spoken of in the Yoga Sutra, Tivra Sangveganam Asanna. The one who has intense yearning, for him the realization is asanna, is just waiting for him. In the words of Ramakrishna, it's just like the red hue of the dawn. Yearning is like the red hue of the dawn. In the morning, in the early hours of the morning, the dawn, when you see that red hue in the sky, the sun is yet not visible. We all know that in short time the sun will be visible. The red hue is the indication of the rising of the sun. Similarly, this yearning is the indication of the attainment of our highest spiritual illumination. To get to realize our real true self, this yearning is the indication. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna is saying that faith will result in yearning, that intense yearning will result in the realization which is immediate, here and now. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna is saying that practice of discipline is necessary, is absolutely necessary for all of us. But if we have faith, then there's a shortcut. That faith will result in intense yearning, and it doesn't mean that we won't have to practice. That practice will be so intensified because of that yearning that it will result in spiritual illumination in a very short time. So what's he saying? That why shouldn't a man succeed if he practices sadhana? But he doesn't have to work hard if he has real faith in his Guru's words. So even he doesn't have to work hard. Why he doesn't have to work hard? Because all our spiritual evolution, what's the basic psychological factor for the spiritual evolution? As we have said, that when we are practicing our sadhana, what we are doing, whatever may be our religion, whatever may be our denomination, you'll find sadhana, the practice speaks of repetition. There's certain mantras, certain prayers which we repeat. This repetition, that as we said again and again, it as if wires our mind, creates a path in the mind. That's the way in our mind all the paths are formed. It gets wired. And once the mind gets wired in a particular way, we get obsessed by it. So all the sadhanas help us that way, this repetition. But just by mere repetition, when you are trying to get your mind wired, you try to create the path, the force is very weak unless this yearning is there. Just say that you are trying to, there's a grass field and you are trying to make a path on that lawn or on that grass field. If you're using an axe and you're just slowly going on removing the grass along that path, along the course on which you have thought of making the path, it will take a long time. But if you use tremendous force, with a lot of force, you're using the axe, in a short time you create the path. So this says that the intensity speaks of the pace, increased pace. So here also, when that yearning is intense, immediately the path is created. That example which we give again and again, just see that in our life, from our childhood, when we were studying, to memorize something, what we were doing? We were repeating. Isn't it? The same thing we go on reading again and again, again and again. This now every day we do the evening prayer. Initially every day I had to keep the book open, the lyrics open in front of me. Because of repetition, day after day, months after month, what has happened? It has become a part of my memory. There is no need for the book. So the repetition entails in memory. But is repetition always required? Just that example in previously also we gave. Just think that you are passing through a road and you were almost on the verge of a head-on collision. That most probably some other vehicle came the wrong way and it was about to hit you. And in the last moment, somehow you avoided the collision. But you will find that throughout your life, that what happened at that moment, even till the moment of your death, you will never forget it. So many things in my life I have forgotten, but that I never forget. Why? Because at that moment, because of the fear of death, what was happening, my mind got so focused that at that moment, all the things which were happening, everything got registered in my mind very deeply. So there was no need for repetition. Just that single act has been engraved in my mind, and I never forget it. So that speaks of this faith, speaks of that intense focus. Intense focus that if this treasure is there within me, and Guru has given me certain practices, that will lead me to that realization. Then that practice becomes so intense that without much repetition, it can lead you to that highest realization. So this intensity speaks of the pace, and that's how the hard work, which I had to do if I didn't have that intensity, that has been avoided. So that's the thing which Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. With the intense yearning, the realization is just waiting you. Just in the words of Shankaracharya, it is Karatala Amulakavat. In the life of Shankaracharya, we see this. He is just giving the spiritual instruction, and immediately the realization is happening. Why it is? Because they were already ready. The ground was ready. The seed just has fallen on the fertile soil and immediately it sprouted. So that's the thing which Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. Then this is the Shankaracharya's. This incidents happened with his disciple who is called Hastamalak. This Hastamalak, the name itself is so significant that his realization was as palpable as a fruit. Amalakiyan is a fruit. Myrobola is a fruit, just like a fruit in your hand. You can see it. It is feel it. It's just in your hand. So realization for him was something just in his hand. He spoke the truth, and immediately it was something which was like a palpable reality for him. And that's why his name was, Sri Shankaracharya named him as Hastamalak. So these are the these instances even in our scripture which speaks of what Sri Ramakrishna is speaking of. That why shouldn't a man succeed if he practices sadhana? First he says that, and then, but he doesn't have to work hard if he has real faith. Then the realization can be instant. So faith in his Guru's words. And once Vyasa, now Sri Ramakrishna is giving some other example. What he's saying, once Vyasa was about to cross the Jamuna, when the gopis also arrived there, wishing to go to the other side, but no ferry boat was in sight. They said to Vyasa, "Revered sir, what shall we do now?" "Don't worry," said Vyasa, "I will take you across, but I am very hungry. Have you anything for me to eat?" The gopis had plenty of milk, cream and butter with them. Vyasa ate it all. So actually they were supposed to go and sell it in the market, but there was this Vyasa just ate all, everything. Then the gopis asked, "Well sir, what about crossing the river?" Vyasa stood on the bank of the Jamuna and said, O Jamuna, if I have not eaten anything today, then may your waters part, so that we may all walk to the other side. No sooner did the sage utter these words than the waters of the Jamuna parted. The gopis were speechless with wonder. He ate so much just now, they said to themselves. And he says, if I have not eaten anything. Vyasa had the firm conviction that it was not himself but the Narayana who dwelt in his heart that had partaken of the food. So that faith results in this, this spiritual realization which he was speaking of just now in his conversation, and now he's speaking of another thing. With the faith, one's belief gets intensified, and the entire nature conspires to materialize our beliefs. If you have a strong belief, the nature is our slave actually. If whatever you believe, that is bound to happen. Listen, it never happens. But actually we ourselves do not have faith in what I say. That we say that in all the countries we find that for higher educational courses, that the professional courses, the seats are limited. For medical, there's a limited seat. So many want to be doctor, but a few only get. That if our aspiration results in the realization of that, what I am desiring for, then all should have got. But what actually happens? No one has real faith. Though they are professing, I want to be a doctor, but if you search their mind, you will find they're constantly doubting. Can I become? Can I become? And it is the doubt that materializes. If we have a strong faith that it will happen, it happens. And we find in the Gospel, Sri Ramakrishna gives that example, that the entire nature will be conspiring to make this faith to materialize. What's that? In another context, he is saying that a man's son was about to die. He was very sick, and now this man started praying, "Oh God, please save my child." And then he heard a celestial voice. It is saying that when a particular constellation is on the sky, the Swati Nakshatra, that's on the sky, it's visible there, it's on the ascendant, it's rising on the sky, and then suddenly it starts raining. That rainwater has to get diluted with the deadly poison, the venom of cobra. And that diluted venom of cobra, which has been diluted by these rainwaters when the Swati star was visible in the sky. Just see so many, that water will save the life of your child. Now so many coincidences are required. First, the Swati constellation should be there in the sky, then it should rain, and then that rainwater has to mix with the venom of the cobra. How is it possible? But with intense faith, he's just believed that as I have heard the voice, it must have some purpose. If I pray, the other factors are bound to materialize. And he started praying, and then suddenly he saw that on the dusk, when it started getting dark, he saw the Swati constellation on the sky. He was extremely delighted. And then from nowhere, after some time, the clouds developed and it started raining. When the Swati constellation was there in the sky, it started raining. Now he was very happy, ecstatic. Oh God, somehow materialized the other factors too. And then he went to his backyard, which was a bushy area, and he was praying, and then he suddenly saw from nowhere a cobra just coming, crawling. It was coming, it was almost approaching. There was a skull, a dead man's skull was lying somewhere, and the rainwater is collected there, and this snake was approaching. And then from nowhere, a frog came. And the frog, seeing the frog, the snake chased the frog, and the frog, to save itself from the snake, to escape from the snake, jumped over. It was near that skull full of that rainwater. It jumped over the skull. And that's the time the snake tried to bite the frog, and it missed. Somehow the frog was able to jump over the skull, and the snake's, the cobra's venom, as he missed biting the frog, the venom fell in the water inside the skull. And now the man was ecstatic. So he has got the water diluted by the venom of the deadly cobra. Now he went and fed his child with that, and the child was saved. He got cured and he was saved. Now Sri Ramakrishna is saying this story. What he says, that if you have strong faith, strong belief, then based on your prayer, all the external factors can materialize to make your faith a manifested reality. So here also we find the story. The Vyasa had that intense faith. He was a man of realization that I am not the doer. I am not the one who is enjoyer. It appears that we are the doers. Even in Vedanta, that's the idea, the karta and the bhokta. It is just because as the self is there in association with that, everything is happening as per its interaction with the nature, with the prakriti. Guna guneshu vartanta. Even in Bhagavad Gita, that's the idea. It's just the senses interacting with the sense world because of their proximity with the self. We feel we are the doer. Even in modern psychology, this idea is a proven fact, but we are not the doer. So Vyasa had this conviction, and then when he is saying that if I have not eaten with that conviction, he says, let the waters of the Jamuna part off. And as we were saying, if you have true faith, then even the nature becomes yourself, a slave. It conspires to make your dream possible. And that's what we see. Here in this story also indicates that same fact, that because of faith, that real faith, that's the thing which happened. They were as if the waters of Yamuna parted off and then they crossed the river. This faith is something wonderful. With the faith, all the things which we think is not possible is possible. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, this in this God's creation, know it for certain, have that faith that everything is possible. That the world is not governed just by the limited faculty of your reason. That whatever is is explainable through my reason, that alone is true. Beyond my reason, nothing is true. This is a very shallow idea. That we should be humble enough to accept that my mind, with its reasoning capacity, is something very limited. There are so many facts in life which is beyond that. I don't understand. It doesn't mean it doesn't follow laws. As Swamiji also indicated, supernatural doesn't mean it is something beyond the laws of nature. There also some law is working, but we are not aware of that law. I am not aware of that law, and that's why it appears as supernatural. So there are some laws which are working there. And that's the thing, with the faith, if we have that understanding, then we'll find that the entire material world conspires to make our belief something true. It makes our belief true. And that's the thing. This faith helps us to realize the spiritual truth. It helps us to make all the so-called our desires, all our endeavors to materialize. So this is the thing with these two factors which we see Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. And then what? Shankaracharya was a Brahmagyani, to be sure. But at the beginning, he too had the feeling of differentiation. He didn't have absolutes. After speaking of Vyasa, that he had tremendous faith, and the result we saw. And here what he's saying, that Shankaracharya was a Brahmagyani, to be sure, but at the beginning, means he attained Brahmagyana, but at the beginning, he too had the feeling of differentiation. He didn't have absolute faith that everything in the world is Brahman. One day, as he was coming out of the Ganges after his bath, he saw an untouchable, a butcher carrying a load of meat. Inadvertently, the butcher touched his body. Shankara shouted angrily, "Hey there, how dare you touch me?" "Revered sir," said the butcher, "I have not touched you, nor have you touched me. The pure self cannot be the body, nor the 5 elements, nor the 24 cosmic principles." Then Shankara came to his senses. So that's the thing. That what here again? So there are so many things Sri Ramakrishna is indicating with the help of these parables. That faith increases the pace of our spiritual journey, number 1. Number 2, it materializes. It helps to conspire. The nature conspires as per our faith to materialize whatever the result we want. This 2. And the 3rd, if we don't have faith, it can result in a split personality. So here, for most of us, till we go to the realizations, we are all ativadis. In Mundaka Upanishad, this term is there. We are speaking something which is beyond our realizations. Ati vada. Vada means speech. Ati means that which is transcended. I am speaking something which has transcended my realization. So, though I am saying I am the self, but it's not yet my realization. And then what happens? I develop a split personality. In the words of Ramakrishna, my speech, my words doesn't conform to my feelings. Mon, muk, ak, noi. Your mind is thinking in some way, and in my speech is just saying something else. Our language brain is very strong. The split personality speaks of a very strong language brain. It's a propaganda machine. So unless we have that realization, we develop that type of split personality. So in spite of being worshipping so even we find that it's in all the walk of life. In India, we are so proud that we are the only nation, we are the only religion as Sanatanis who that worship the Lord as the mother. We cannot only just think him as the father, we also respect, that adore him, that he can be anything. And the feminine aspect of the divinity is worshipped by us. And we will find in our prayers, in all our mantras, what is mentioned, that it is she who is manifesting as all the feminine forms we see in this universe. So if we had faith, all the so-called Sanatanis are supposed to have tremendous reverence for woman. But is there not this tremendous amount of family violence, abuse, this discrimination within the family? It speaks again of that split personality. That we are saying something, but which we really don't believe. Mon muk ak noi. So it creates a split personality. From that, all sorts of social complications arises. Because split personality speaks, as we are saying, of a very strong propaganda machine, the language brain. It always, as Swami Vivekananda used to say, that so much endeavor we spent so much of energy in showing others that I am a great person. If I would have used the same amount of energy to really transform myself, I would have transformed. So in this life we find that that's how we create that split personality. Just we want to mask our feelings through our words. And then we find that what we are saying, professing, doesn't match with our action. So that speaks of this split personality. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna says, unless you have faith, you are bound to have that type of split personality. And if you have faith, then your words will conform to your actions, to your inner feelings. Once Jarabharat was carrying King Raghugana's palanquin and at the same time giving a discourse on self-knowledge. The king got down from the palanquin and said to Jarabharat, "Who are you, pray?" The latter answered, "I am not this, not this. I am the pure self." He had perfect faith that he was the pure self. So here he gives this example, that faith makes one's speech conform to one's action. It speaks of the integrity of the personality. So let's just see that in the form of conversation, that how important the faith is, how in various ways it is going to enrich our life one by one. Sri Ramakrishna, through his conversation, is indicating, I am he, I am the pure self. That is the conclusion of the Jnanis. So now this will enter, this Ramakrishna is that after saying that that we say that I am the self, but at the same time our action doesn't conform to it. So in continuation to that, what he's saying, I am he, I am the pure self, that is the conclusion of the Jnanis. But the Bhaktas say the whole universe is the glory of God. Who would recognize a wealthy man without his power and riches? But it is quite different when God himself, gratified by the aspirant's devotion, says to him, "You are the same as myself." Suppose a king is seated in his court and his cook enters the hall, sits on the throne and says, "O king, you and I are the same." People will certainly call him a madman. But suppose one day the king, pleased with the cook's service, says to him, "Come, sit beside me." There is nothing wrong in that. There is no difference between you and me. Then if the cook sits on the throne with the king, there is no harm in it. It is not good for ordinary people to say, "I am he." The waves belong to the water. So here also we find Sri Ramakrishna is actually quoting Shankaracharya. There is a verse of Shankaracharya where this is the idea. The waves belong to the water. Does the water belong to the wave? Sri Shankaracharya's the words are, the waves belong to the ocean. Does the ocean belong to the wave? So that's the idea. So though we are one with the absolute reality, at present it is just mere words. It has to take us to the realization. But as we are just think of this, that with this example we will end our today's discussion. That the story of the 5 cavemen, this is a wonderful allegory of Plato. These 5 cavemen, throughout their life, from their very birth, they were chained in such a way that they were only seeing the wall of the cave. They were sitting on the entrance of the cave, facing the wall, and they cannot turn their head, they only see the wall. And on the other side, just outside the cave, there was a road, and on the other side of the road, there was always some fire burning. Always. There was always there. It was lit and it was burning. Now, throughout the day, so many people from the village used to go to the marketplace and again return to the village. So it was a very noisy road. Lot of carts, these horses, people with all their these goods going to the market, coming back. So these noises were there, and what this blind man could see, just the shadows, the fire which is lit on the other side of the street. Because of that, these all the people who are walking, their shadows fall on the wall of the cave, and these cavemen are just facing that, and they cannot turn their head. So throughout the day, what they see is just the shadows and hear the noises. And that's the world for them. They know nothing of this, the so-called real world. And one day, somehow, one of the cavemen was released. His chain was removed. So he turned around and saw this wonderful panorama, the sky, the landmark. He ran. He was ecstatic. For the first time, he's seeing the real world. This wonderful scenario. He was so ecstatic, he came back and just tried to give this news, the good news, to these other 4 cavemen. When he said that what you're seeing is just the shadow, the real world is behind you, they thought he has gone mad. Because we can only relate to what we realize, what's our experience. They haven't experienced that. They thought that there is a madman. So that's what happens with all the so-called mystics. They were persecuted. They were thought they are mad. The world thinks what they are seeing, that's correct. And that's why God himself has to incarnate. Why? To remove the chain. As long as we are chained and we are seeing the shadow, even if someone who has realized the reality comes and says, we won't believe. So someone has to remove the chain, and then only we can turn around and see the reality. So we are so tightly bound with this gunamaya that it is almost impossible with our own strength, our own power, to which we give so much of importance, to realize the absolute truth. So that's why the divine grace is absolutely necessary. So he comes, removes the chain, and then only the realization is possible. So that's why, though in fact the fact is I am one with that absolute, but we are so much enchained in ignorance, unless God himself comes with that super divine power. Even superhuman power is of no use. That's what Swamiji is saying in one of his lectures. That realization is not easy. What to speak of superhuman power? With only super divine power. That's the term he is using, that this realization is possible. It is the divine who comes. And he can only remove the chain. And then only I can realize that I am one with him. And that's why this sentence is of so much importance. The ocean, the waves, what you say is, the waves belong to the ocean. But the ocean doesn't belong to the wave. When a wave gets merged with the ocean, yes, it becomes one with the ocean. But can an ocean merge in a wave? No. So we are just like that wave. Ocean is the essence. We can become one with it, but the ocean can never merge in us. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna is saying that for a jnani who is always saying that I am he, it's all leads to ativada, unless like that he resigns to the divine and praise him so that he can come and remove us from the shackles of ignorance. So that's the wonderful idea. So this bhakti is necessary. So this is the thing which we find Sri Ramakrishna, how nicely he is speaking of. So this faith, with the faith we have this intense prayer for the divine who is there, and that takes us to the realization immediately, because after all it is he, not our effort, that ultimately results in realization. Our effort is just to at last realize the fact that with my effort realization is not possible, and then our effort has a negative implication. With that I realize that with my effort I cannot, and then the true resignation comes, and when the true resignation comes, realization happens immediately. So with this we stop the discussion today. This interesting conversation continues, which we will again take up again in the next class. So thank you all. Namaskars.